When it comes to television shows, there are no shortage of mistakes. Some are so small that you might not even notice them when you're watching. Stay tuned to find out which scenes in Jessie just don't add up. Are you new around here? Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to The Things for more great content like this. Now on to 10 mistakes in Jessie you might have missed. New York, new nanny. We all know that Jessie has been in our lives for some times now, but remember when the show first came out? It first aired all the way back in 2011. You would think that when the show first airs, the producers would do everything in their power to make sure that it's perfect. It is, after all, the first time people watch the show. But apparently, even premiere episodes aren't free of error. Just take Jessie's first episode, New York, New Nanny. We're introduced to Jessie, who moves to New York to live on her own and be an actress. At the beginning of the episode, when she can't pay the driver, she's thrown out of the cab. This is where the mistakes occur. When Jessie is thrown out of the cab, she's thrown from a distance that is unreachable by the driver. He also somehow manages to throw her bags out, even though they were in the trunk of the cab and he was inside of the car. Despite these mistakes, the episode goes on and Jessie meets the Ross family and is offered a job as their nanny. Because the kids think that Jessie is too demanding, they run off in their parents' helicopter. Jessie eventually finds them and brings them back. Talk about a crazy first day. The talented Mr. Kipling. The mistakes in season 1 just keep on coming. One of the episodes with the most mistakes is the episode titled The Talented Mr. Kipling. In the episode, Jessie has a nightmare that a huge version of the kid's pet lizard, Mr. Kipling, is attacking her. When she wakes up, Mr. Kipling is in her bed. Ravi says that maybe Mr. Kipling got into bed because he was bored in his cage. So Jessie decides to take the kids to the park so Ravi can walk Mr. Kipling and Emma can work on her school project with Luke. On the way back from the park, Mrs. Chesterfield sees Mr. Kipling and freaks out. She calls him a vicious, cold-blooded reptile. She then points out that the reptiles are not allowed in the building. Fast forward a bit and Mr. Kipling attacks Mrs. Chesterfield. This causes the woman to do everything that she can to get the lizard taken away. Jessie spends most of the episode trying to fight for the pet to stay, but the mistake comes in when Jessie and the kids go to the elevator to go to the park. Zuri isn't with them when they go to the elevator, but then when they get off of the elevator, Zuri is right there. How did she just magically appear like that? One Day Wonders. In the episode One Day Wonders, Jessie is seen playing her guitar in Central Park. People notice and begin giving her money. While she's playing, Luke joins in and they make a lot more money. Later in the episode, J.J. Mayfield, who is a big music producer, sees Jessie and Luke performing in the park and promises that he will make them famous. He even gets them a studio to shoot a music video in. But then it is revealed that Jessie and Luke will have to pay $1,200 to shoot the music video. While filming the video, the two fight over the spotlight, which obviously causes issues to come up between them. While all of this is happening, Bertram gets Emma to help him with his style for his social media profile, but it gets a little out of hand when Bertram realizes that he can edit the photos to make himself look thinner. He reveals that he only joined social media to meet up with his old high school crush, but he takes the photo editing a bit too far. Here is where the mistakes come in. When Emma takes pictures of Bertram with her tablet, her fingers are covering the lens. If that were a real photo, her fingers would have ruined the photo. And then when Bertram opens his sweater, Emma says that she swallowed one of his buttons even though the sweater uses a zipper. Get it together, guys. Make new friends, but hide the old. Now we're in season 2. Maybe you thought the errors would fall just in the first season, but that is not the case at all. The errors just keep on coming. In the episode titled Make New Friends, but Hide the Old, it's the beginning of a new school year. On Emma's first day of school, she meets a girl named Rosie. Rosie is rude and aggressive. Unfortunately, she and Emma are assigned to do an art project together. Of course, during the project, Rosie ends up embarrassing Emma. While all of this is going on, Luke is having his own trouble at school. After his stuffed koala falls out of his bag, people begin bullying him. Ravi says that the koala is his and people start teasing him instead. Zuri is also having trouble because her homework is more difficult than it's ever been, so she refuses to do it. The mistakes in this episode are all over the place. First, Zuri never actually gets in trouble for not doing her homework. And second, when Jessie and Zuri fight over her homework, she says that Zuri has to do her vocabulary words, but the sheet says that it's math homework. So which one is it? 101 Lizards. While we're on the topic of season 2, let's talk about the 101 Lizards episode. As we all know, Ravi is obsessed with lizards, so in this episode, Ravi finally realizes that he cannot properly take care of all 12 of his lizards, so Jessie suggests that he puts them up for adoption. Ravi then interviews potential lizard owners, but doesn't really like any of them. Towards the end of the day, a lady named Cassandra is interviewed and says that her boss will take the lizards to live upstate in a loving home. Later, Jessie and Ravi find out that her boss is actually Mrs. Chesterfield. If you remember, Mrs. Chesterfield hates the lizards. Jessie and Ravi become convinced that Mrs. Chesterfield Chesterfield wants to turn the lizards into accessories, but really she just wants to donate them to a lizard sanctuary. The error in this episode could definitely go unnoticed if you weren't paying attention. When Ravi says goodbye to his lizards, pay attention to the bags in Jessie's hands. When he gives Sanjay his bag, there are 2 in the tray, but when he gives Mowgli a bag, there are 5 in the tray, and after that, there's only 1 bag left. It just doesn't add up. Caught purple-handed. Throughout the show, Jessie is always trying to keep the kids in line. So in the episode Caught Purple-Handed, she asks the kids why they didn't turn the money in that they made from selling muffins at school. In order to raise the money they were supposed to make through delivering the muffins, the kids throw a party without telling Jessie. They lie about having a celebrity guest at the party so that more people will show up. Obviously, they weren't able to get a celebrity guest to come to the party, so instead, Luke disguises himself and pretends to be a celebrity. With all of this going on, Jessie manages to land an audition for a hand commercial with her new agent. Unfortunately, she accidentally puts her hands in purple paint and ends up getting fired. Even though the job ended horribly, Jessie tells Max that she'd still like to continue working with him. The trouble with this episode comes from when Max was shooting footage of Jessie in the park. The whole time he was supposedly recording her, the phone screen was on the homepage. Now, we aren't expert filmmakers or anything, but we're pretty sure you can't film anything on the home screen of a phone. Jessie's Aloha Holidays with Parker and Joey. You would think that on crossover episodes, the production team would pay even closer attention to the continuity of episodes. After all, it is featuring 2 shows, but that is not the case at all. In Jessie's Aloha Holidays with Parker and Joey episode, which was also a crossover with Liv and Maddie, there were plenty of errors. Despite the errors, the episode premiered with 3.5 million views, which isn't too shabby if you ask us. Anyway, in the episode, Jessie and the Ross kids head to Hawaii for a vacation and Parker and Joey join them. There's one major goof in this episode that you might have missed if you were not paying attention. When Emma first walks up to the gift stand before the volcano becomes active, there's a flower in her hair below her ear. Later, the flower is behind and above her ear. Peyton List, who plays Emma, probably realized the awkward placement of the flower in between takes and moved it. Little things like that definitely can throw off a show. She should have either just left the flower where it was, or they should have refilmed the first part of the scene with the flower in the right place. Either way, you can't switch things halfway through a scene. Good Luck Jessie. Who doesn't love a good crossover episode? Crossovers usually bring some of our favorite shows together. Good Luck Jessie brought together Good Luck Charlie and Jessie. In the episode, Teddy Duncan from Good Luck Charlie gets accepted to a college in New York City. While she's there, she and her brother PJ meet Jessie and Zuri on the subway. Unfortunately, PJ and Teddy have to stay in New York City for a little bit longer than they had originally planned because a blizzard hit the city. While this is going on, the Ross kids find out that someone stole their Christmas presents and enlist PJ and Teddy to help them find out what happened. Back in Denver, where Teddy is from, Bob and Amy work to figure out what Charlie wants for Christmas. In the end, it's Gabe who figures out what Charlie wants, and all is well. Now for the mistakes. In part 2 of the episode, Teddy and PJ's hair is a lot different than it was in part 1. Teddy's hair is suddenly dark blonde and PJ's hair turns lighter. This is probably because the 2 parts were not shot at the same time. In fact, part 2 was probably shot after Good Luck Charlie finished production completely. Talk about a serious timing error. 4 broke kids. We finally made it to season 4, and the goofs, man, they just keep on coming. Just take a look at the 4 broke kids episode. As we all know, the Ross kids are completely loaded, but in this episode, Jessie has to tell the kids that their parents have lost a lot of their money. Because of this, the kids have to think of a way to earn more money. During this time, Mrs. Chesterfield moves into their apartment, and Tony is kind enough to let Jessie and the Ross kids stay in his. The kids each set off to find a new way to make money and end up really learning the values of $1. Later, Jessie tells the kids that the government made a mistake and that they actually haven't lost all of their money at all. In a strange turn of events, it's actually Mrs. Chesterfield who ends up losing all of her money due to some illegal tax deductions that Ravi found on her computer. Tony asks her if she wants to live with him, but of course, Mrs. Chesterfield is disgusted by the idea. The mistake in this episode is a really weird one. When Emma first asks Jessie how being a handy woman is going, she's inside the snack shack. If you pay attention, on the next cut, she's standing right next to Jessie. Weird. Someone has to TOU-PAY. Who doesn't love Bertram? He's so grumpy all the time that it's great to watch. In the episode Someone Has to TOU-PAY, he tries to switch things up a bit and buys a new toupee for his performance with his band. Unfortunately, the hairpiece soon goes missing. Jessie asks each of the kids if they've seen the toupee. Fun fact, this episode was part of Disney Channel's Who Done It Weekend. The kids end up trying to help Bertram so that he will do good in his performance. Even though Bertram is worried that his fans will be upset that he has no hair, he still goes on and performs. So we guess all is well that ends well. Well, except for one major goof. goof. Go back and watch the part where Zuri tries to help Jessie down from the tree. At first, she has her hands on the tree and she is shaking it, but when Jessie falls, her hands are down and nowhere near the tree. Did they film this scene in 2 takes? When they started filming the second take, did they just forget that Zuri was shaking the tree branch in the first? We need answers, Disney. We need answers. That's it for 10 mistakes in Jessie you might have missed. Did you notice any of those mistakes when you were watching the show? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.